Mason Graham's best fit in the NFL for me is the San Francisco 49ers. I think this is realistic that he slides to 11. They need interior defensive line help to play alongside Nick Bosa. I see Mason Graham and his penetration style and his upside as a pass rusher getting a lot of one-on-one situations, getting a lot of one-on-one rush spots where everyone's focused on Nick Bosa to wreak havoc in the middle of their defense. I saw projected today, the Athletic put out a mock draft where they had Derek Harmon as the pick for the 49ers, who's a fine player. He's okay. He's a decent defensive tackle. He plays a little too high. He's not going to get anywhere near the level of production that Mason Graham will. Him on the 49ers would be nuts. And I could totally see him just randomly sliding because other positions are prioritized.
I like the 49ers. They have a history of good defensive tackles and drafting good defensive tackles. DeForest Buckner and Solomon Thomas. I literally had it ready to go. I think those are both absolutely nailed picks. I think Bosa was a nailed pick. It could be a nailed pick. And 49ers fans acting like this is the first, like they've never had a good defensive line this offseason. The entitlement is enraging. The fact that the 49ers fans of all teams are sitting here saying that our roster hasn't been good enough recently. Give it a rest. Mason Graham, very good defensive tackle. Love him. He shouldn't go to any team after pick 14. He just shouldn't. You know why? Aaron Donald was picked at 13. And I don't think any defensive tackle in this class is better than Aaron Donald. I don't think any defensive tackle should be picked ahead of pick 13 in reverence of Aaron Donald. If you think Mason Graham's going to be better, take him at 11. I don't think so. So any team after 14 that wants a defensive tackle, I might start adjusting my no first round D tackle draft policy.
Wait, I'm trying to understand. What is your take? I'm so confused. What are you trying to say? What does that have to do with where he's picked?
Defensive tackles shouldn't be picked higher than where Aaron Donald was picked. And that is at pick 13.
Oh, so you're pushing your agenda because you hate defensive tackles, that he's unworthy of going in. He can be as good as Aaron Donald. You realize that, right?
I don't believe so. Aaron Donald?
He can be as good as Aaron Donald. He absolutely can be a Hall of Fame level defensive tackle.
You know what? If you believe that,
I absolutely believe that. I 1,000% believe that if there is one of three prospects in this class that goes on to be a Hall of Famer, it's Mason Graham.
If you feel that way, then I will support your justification at 11 for the 49ers. Me personally, I am adjusting my policy and agenda to no more first-round defensive tackles. That was a bit extreme. So we're going to reel it in and say no picks before 13. I think that should be the benchmark for a position that you could replace with Joe's.
Okay, but Mason Graham, this is where the problem with the conversation that you're having here is Mason Graham isn't your typical defensive tackle prospect. The defensive tackle prospects that I understand what you're saying, that like they get overdrafted, blah, 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 whatever. You want to complain about it. Your former offensive lineman. Their impact, if they don't hit, is just mostly being a good run defender. You want to spend those picks on luxury positions because you want to have more of an impact than an interior presence.
Right.
Mason Graham is good enough to become a high-level pass rusher in the interior. He is good enough to be a 10, 15 sack guy from the inside. He's got the hands. He's got the flexibility. He's got the explosiveness.
His shed is very good.
He's got all that stuff.
His hip balance is great. His torque is fantastic. He's got all the tools.
So you're not, this isn't Deron Payne. This isn't Jonathan Allen. This isn't Javon Kinlaw. This isn't Derek Brown. This isn't one of those guys that's just a big-ass body that's super strong, that's manhandling people, that you're getting excited by him being a rare athlete. He's not that guy. He is awesome hands that can go on to becoming a really productive pass rusher as a defensive tackle, like Aaron Donald.
Those guys were all billed as with pass rushing capabilities also.
Not as much as Mason Graham is.
Okay. If this guy is the diamond in the rough of defensive tackles that will get you –
it's not a diamond in the rough. He's not a diamond in the rough.
For defensive tackles, for a defensive tackle to get 12 sacks
he's the diamond.
a year.
He's not the diamond in the rough.
The rough is the defensive tackles that get 5 sacks a year that are labeled as pass rushers.
Why do you hate defensive tackles so much?
I don't. I just think the value is skewed on them. And I don't think that burning a first-round pick on a guy that is going to take up space most of the time and get 4 to 5 tackles a game, it doesn't equate to me.
Yeah,
you can have guys that you have to set up a system for it. You have to have a Pat and Dan Williams system if you want to do that. One rushes the pass, one takes up the space, but you keep on drafting these first-round defensive tackles. I don't need to draft a guy to take up space. I could draft UDFA Keith Coleman, and he could take up 2 bodies.
Coleman's not anchoring.
Convert Adriel Miller to a nose tackle, and he would take up 2 bodies.
But we're not drafting these guys with the outlook of like, hey, he's a space eater. Those space eaters go on day 2. I understand that there are some guys that haven't hit, but you still have to take the shots on the players that do show that pass rush upside. I agree that sometimes these guys get drafted with high expectations and they don't play to them.
I've just seen it. I've seen Marlon Davidson come and go, and he was supposed to be a handsy defensive tackle. Who was you know what the worst was one of the worst in recent memory? D tackle, white D tackle from
Taven Bryan,
right to the Jags.
He was end of the first round, so that one's a little bit less egregious.
He was supposed to be Mr. Juice, Dr. Juice. Doc, get to the quarterback.
Well, Nathan in the chat brought up a really good point. Look at what the Eagles did drafting guys to take up space. LOL. Jordan Davis was not a good pick where they took him, but Jalen Carter is a great example. When you have these freakish dudes that have consistent game-by-game presences, demolishing interior offensive linemen and pressuring quarterbacks, you have to take those guys. Their defense was as good as it was in the Super Bowl because of Jalen Carter.
I would agree.
That's what Mason Graham is. So don't let the Jordan Davises of the world.
I love Jordan Davis.
Prevent you from taking a Jalen Carter.
I wish they let Jordan Davis rush the passer more. I wish he was in on 3rd down. I think he's a bit quirked
he'd be very good. I don't think he'd be a very good passer.
I think he'd do some good cleanup duty, and I think he would take
a big slob.
He gets 1 sack, he takes a quarterback out of the game, and they would actually fine him for landing on a quarterback. It wouldn't just be a flag.